and that's what we're trying to fill, is that sort of mode where there's going to be this bridge between this decentralized utility, coin, token, exactly which one it's going to be, I'm not sure yet, but with this idea of there has to be someone ultimately helping the average everyday citizen. We have millions of people across the world right now that are very happy opening a wallet, saving their information, taking this leap, and that's going to continue to grow. But with 7 billion people on this planet, the overwhelming majority of people, want to slow down, want to do things sort of traditionally. They're interested, but they need someone holding their hand. And I think you're going to see decentralized platform mated with expertise, and that's what's really going to go. I don't think it's necessarily going to be a central bank currency that tips the scales.
New studies show that by the time people reach their middle ages, the body often produces less than half of the collagen it did in their youth. Collagen is the main building block in our skin, making up 70 to 80% of it. This is why we get sagging skin and wrinkles as we age. If you want to look younger, you must supplement collagen, which will improve your skin's elasticity, make it smoother, more plump, and more youthful looking. That's why Ageless Multi-Collagen provides 5 key types of collagen you need from 4 different sources, essential to optimally support an array of full body benefits. No odor, no taste, no clumping, unlike other collagen supplements. And this is why I recommend Health with Adapt 2030. Ageless Multi-Collagen, and look at that, I need another bag already. Quick way for youthful appearance. Use the link in the description box below for 51% off my favorite Ageless Multi-Collagen. And now on with the video. And good afternoon, everyone. Today I have with me is Matt Zaner from Zaner Precious Metals and now Zaner Digital. Think about this. The new is going to be the old. Legacy finance, traditional regulated finance, with on-roads, on-ramps, and off-ramps from fiat into crypto. With the personal service that you would expect, we can actually pick up the phone, call the brokerage house, call the metals dealer, now calling the cryptocurrency brokerage with a person face-to-face. Because, almost every exchange that you go to, everything's by email. There's no personal service. It's you get the email, you hope somebody answers it, and if you lose or have a problem, hopefully somebody from customer service 3-6 days in the future will get back to you. Your ticket's in, but think about bringing the regulated financial industry where there's a lot more trust, quote unquote, between banks for interbank transfers. So early adopters, they're going to stay on the exchanges. Persons 40, 50, 60 retirees, they're going to want to come into something that they're already familiar with. Traditional banking, credit cards, a banking statement, tax statements issued. That's where we're going. Now blend these two worlds together. And this is what Zaner Digital is offering. This is a glimpse into the future of how 50% of people are going to start to transact and adopt cryptocurrency. Jumping right onto a decentralized exchange or over to, like I say, a digital exchange somewhere, it's going to be a little tech unsavvy for most. They're going to want to go the more comfortable and traditional route. Call somebody if I have a problem, lost my password, I have a problem, help me custodian or vault that asset that I just bought, liquidate it for me. So to go through how this new future is going to blend and how we're going to morph into this next iteration of mass adoption of cryptocurrency. Matt Zaner right here from Zaner Digital. Matt, appreciate you joining me.
Yeah, thanks, David. I'm thrilled to be here, and I'm thrilled to talk to your listeners and your audience. As you said, right, we've been around 40 years doing all sorts of financial services. We'll call them legacy finance. Obviously, things are really changing into the future. And I certainly see crypto as a major, major part of what not only we're doing into the future, but I think the future of finance in general. Fintech is certainly an exciting place to be.
Fiat currencies, as you spoke about when we had a little conversation before we started here, the inflation's running. So where do people move to? You have a few choices only in today's world where people seem like they're being boxed into a corner. You have precious metals, you could get land or real estate, and then you have crypto. I mean, if there's any other asset class out there that you think people might be able to jump into, I'm all ears.
Right.
But, it seems that everybody is being, sort of funneled through a cattle chute into just a couple asset classes, and that's it. So
right.
How do you feel this is changing the landscape?
Right. So with 0% interest rates, here and sort of across the world, everybody's been driven to chase returns. I'm a huge believer in real assets, as you just said, whether it's real estate, whether it's precious metals, which obviously we sell as well, or whether it's crypto. And crypto, what's really interesting is it not only is a real asset in many cases, but also has utility in many cases, which is a really interesting item. And it is somewhat, the way gold has operated for 10,000 years. It's a real asset, but also has utility as a means of transaction.
El Salvador just had passed all the new Bitcoin legislation where it's now legal tender. So
Absolutely.
Yeah, how long is that going to be before it's the next country? Because in crypto, when it happens and the next person says, wow, light bulb has gone off, now what? So what do you think the next nation or the next nation or the next nation, and how long do you think it would take to arrive to the next nation now making, doesn't have to be Bitcoin in particular, but some sort of cryptocurrency as a national sovereign instrument of settlement?
I think it's going to happen faster than we think. I don't think, had you looked, a few years ago and say, oh, the time horizon might be 50 years, and a lot of people think that's a really long time. 50 years actually comes pretty quickly these days when you're talking about overhauling how a government might work, right? Because if you don't have control of money, you really don't have control of power. And I think government wants to take as long as they possibly can to understand it, so they can understand how they can control it to hold on to their power. El Salvador, amazingly, has made a very fast jump. And I think if you see a few more countries follow suit, you're going to have a lot of people saying, hey, wait a second, I can't get left behind. So sure, is America and sort of the EU going to be slow and not go super fast? Yeah, I believe that. Do I believe the utility of crypto continues to grow exponentially, whether it is at a state level or whether it's just at a peer-to-peer level? Yeah, the utility is going to continue to explode.
Yeah, and that fear of missing out, or FOMO, as they call, when it comes to the national level of I shouldn't say international bank, but more of a settlement bank for a nation that uses whatever it is. We have our own central banks here in the U.S., but others don't. They rely on Bank for International Settlements or something. There's a lot of talk in these most high echelons using digital cryptocurrency. It could be central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, but we're talking more staying on the private end. So these two worlds are going to start to evolve, and the FOMO is going to be out there. Governments are running to catch onto it. Citizens are running to catch onto it. Two different parallel paths. So the central bank digital currency on that national offering, sovereign, and then the personal Bitcoin, Monero, Ethereum, or whatever it is. So these two parallel avenues, I mean, which one's going to excel faster, and where's the greatest adoption going to take place first? Do you think it'll be on the national level, or do it be at individuals?
I think it's going to be the decentralized level is the one that's going to get the greatest adoption. So it's not going to be obviously at the central bank level. It's going to be a Bitcoin or whatever the next version that people think might be the best. But I think where the hybrid's going to come is not necessarily from the state level, but it's going to come from the support level, right? So right now, a lot of the big questions from the average everyday citizen is, well, what happens if I lose my password? What happens if I don't understand this? Who can I call? Who's ultimately responsible, right? And that's a question that a lot of people can't answer. They're used to saying, okay, I could always call my banker and he can pull, some money here or trace money there, or I could call, my stockbroker and say, hey, I forgot my password, what's in my account, right? And that's what we're trying to fill, is that sort of mode where there's going to be this bridge between this decentralized utility, coin, token, exactly which one it's going to be, I'm not sure yet, but with this idea of there has to be someone ultimately helping the average everyday citizen. We have millions of people across the world right now that are very happy opening a wallet, saving their information, taking this leap, and that's going to continue to grow. But with 7 billion people on this planet, the overwhelming majority of people, want to slow down, want to do things sort of traditionally. They're interested, but they need someone holding their hand. And I think you're going to see decentralized platform mated with expertise, and that's what's really going to go. I don't think it's necessarily going to be a central bank currency that tips the scales.
The early adopters are the ones that are willing to spend an hour or 2 hours to figure out how to even send a single transaction from one wallet address to another, to get that account open, to even figure out what the platform looks like and running. But in e-commerce,
not only that, but they also get over their fear, right? Early adopters have gotten over their fear, where most people, and I don't know what that ratio is, 80-20, 80% of people may never be able to get over that fear if it's completely opaque to them.
E-commerce,
right?
2 clicks and your sales are down 60-70%. 2 clicks if they have to go further into the website to initiate the buy. Can you imagine mom and pop, elderly, retired, drawing retirement savings, trying to figure out the whole wallets when they can barely do email?
Right. And to your point, what's great about it is, you think about e-commerce, if something doesn't go right, you can call Amazon and there's a final authority as to what happened with my transaction. Am I going to get my money back or not? Right now, that doesn't exist. And I think it's slowly growing to, look, we're not going to necessarily be able to grab money back from a wallet. That's the way it works. But there's going to be someone that they can trust to get the correct answer, right? That's, I think, the final authority. It may not be the answer I want, but it's the correct answer. And for too many people, they don't know what the correct answer is or even where to get the correct answer. And I think as soon as people do get that trust in getting what that correct answer is, it's going to be that plus decentralized token. You're off to the races.
Yeah, because right now, one of the most difficult things is the on-ramp, off-ramp, taking it from fiat, initiating the purchase somewhere. Either you're going to come into an exchange that's already taken the lead on, the on-ramping and the KYC, or people are going to go to a decentralized exchange. And I cannot see in the wildest dream the first time you're going to touch into crypto jumping onto a decentralized swap platform to try to get your fiat turned into something else when you don't even understand what gas fees are to try to initiate that. So people are familiar with stockbroker, metals brokers. They're so familiar with it. It's been with us for how long now? More century and a half. Right. People are used to that. So it's going to be, I think, much easier for the adoption to be able to blend the world of what was before to the new digital on-ramping. And then, off-ramp too. If you're going to liquidate something, how do you take that into fiat again and then get it out actually into your bank? I know there's a couple services that do that. You come in, you can sell your crypto and then turn it back into a US dollar and then, rewire it back to your bank for a fee each way, along the way.
Right.
But custodianship, that's like the short-term holding, but vaulting, like let's say I want to buy a Bitcoin, 2 Bitcoin, 5 Bitcoin, whatever, 10, 20, 30, but I want to just hold it. I think it's generational legacy wealth, right? I just want to buy it now. I'm going to hold it for 20 years and I'll talk to you all later. Send me a yearly statement. So vaulting and then the on-road, off-road liquidation. That's confusing talk for a lot of people who are even listening to this and understanding cryptocurrency for the first time.
And so we're trying to help fill that from that idea, what you were just saying, where we're taking an experience that they were used to, whether it's stock brokerage experience or precious metals, type of experience, and mating that to what they're moving into here with crypto. And so when we're going to be vaulting for people, as they buy from us and put it into our vault, we're going to give them feedback that they're used to seeing. We're going to be giving them statements in the way that they're used to seeing. They're going to file their taxes, and we're going to be up on what they sort of need to do and how it works, and they're going to ask us questions, and we're going to be here to pick up the phone and answer those questions. We're going to be able to make it so that that on ramp and that off ramp is comfortable.
The loss of control, because you hit it on the head, taxes. Governments are terrified of losing control of revenue and capital gains coming off of this. Now, again, I watch a lot of things from Nomad Capitalist about, getting second passports and trying to limit tax liability. But, in the crypto game, people might think that they can run and hide and do all these transactions. That's not possible. I mean, you might get away with it now, but in the future, when algorithms get better, they're going to start tracing every transaction down the chain, and then taxes are going to be due eventually. Taxman cometh. So it's better to sleep comfortably at night knowing that it's done correctly, that everything's on the table. And that's the kind of way I like to operate. So I don't always have to be looking over my shoulder. Ooh, I did that. So the tax implication is what a lot of people don't understand. Right now, cryptocurrency, I think it falls under real estate. So, what if that were to change? Then how would so having somebody that's familiar with being able to issue the correct documents for tax and answer some of these taxation questions is just a huge bonus as well.
Yeah. You say it's, treated like real estate, and it kind of is, but what's interesting is that, there's still warring factions, at the top levels of government. IRS says it's an asset, the SEC says maybe not, Treasury Department says it's a currency, it's still completely undecided. And right, how does the average citizen navigate that? It's a tough one.
And it's all about that loss of control. You mentioned those three agencies there, and we could probably list off a whole bunch of others that are just even in the financial arena, CFTC being one. They're going to lose control, and I don't know how much corralling there will be for a government terrified of losing control of its central bank authority and the ability to control money itself, which is the ability of government to control not only military, but economy and citizens. But that fear of loss of control, that battle does exist at the top levels here. So where do you think it's going to finally shake out? Because, if you're sitting up at the top levels of government and you see this thing that all the citizens are starting to adopt that's completely outside of your control, that's going to be a terrifying thing for power elite that have been in power for what? We're talking multi centuries, if not millennia of control of money so far. Right. And then this thing comes out. And if you think it's just going to quietly roll over in the middle of the night and be like, all right, crypto, hey, we're done with our central banking, another thing coming. So I think there's going to be a lot of battles at these higher levels of government finance, central banking, et cetera, to try to set groundwork for how people can operate in the crypto space. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, I think you're 100% correct. We were talking a little bit offline about how if you don't control money, you don't control power. And I am surprised that the federal government, at least the U.S. federal government, hasn't stepped in to regulate this already. And I think what's happened, I don't think they have, because they don't understand it. And what I think is going to happen is that they're going to continue delaying any action until they fully understand it. And what I think is going to happen during that delay is the adoption is going to continue growing. And by the time federal governments decide to really make a big move, I think it's going to be too late. I think the ship is sailing now. And if the federal government doesn't make a large regulatory move within this year, I don't know how much they're going to be able to control it. And I think that's great.
Yeah. Do you think they'll make a move next year and then try to grandfather their moves back in and say, well, we made the decision now, we weren't so stable on it. in 2017, 18, 19. So everything that we're saying now applies and it's retroactive for the last 3 years? Or do you think that once they finally make a decision on some sort of legislation or, I don't know, control, overseership, whatever the laws are going to be for that moving forward, it starts on that day? Or do you think they're going to try to backlog it and say, well, we finally decided, so all those previous years of transactions will fall under the new legislation?
It's a great question. And I think they might try something retroactive. I think when they finally open their eyes as to how dangerous this is to them, I think they're going to try to overstep. But I think they're also going to find out that they can't. There's going to be too much, there's too much money, there's too much stuff already happening. There's going to be too much pushback against that. And so, okay, great. I think they're going to have to continue to scale down what it is that they're going to be able to do. And even from there, once you sort of let the cat out of the bag, once you let people transact freely, openly, easily, without being regulated, boy, that's a hard cat to put back in the bag.
Yeah, it certainly is. So the early adopters who've been able to go Wild West style for the last 5-6 years on this, before you didn't even have KYC on a wallet, you just kind of open it up, even in an exchange back in the 2015, 16, they didn't even care who you were. They never even asked.
That's right.
Just like come to the exchange, throw some money in, you had to deposit crypto to start trading inside there. But again, that was the whole thing. The on ramp and the off ramp was incredibly difficult back 5 years ago. But once you were in there, it was Wild West. Nobody cared. There were no tax statements. It was just like trade, do whatever. Finally, some regulation came in around 2018, and they started to want to know who was inside their exchanges. So that was a small percentage, let's say 5% of the global populace, even less, probably 1%. But Matt, where do you see it going out at the full end here? Let's say take it out into the future, 10, 12 years, 15 years from now. What do you think the global adoption rate is going to be? Because I know a lot of people right now don't even use credit cards. I know there's a handful of people who don't even have, ATM cards. There's a segment of people who just don't want to operate in the say, quote unquote, traditional space that we have with credit cards, bank cards, debit cards, et cetera. That's going to always exist. There's never going to be 100% uptake and adoption of a new technology. So where do you think we could go on the far end here of numbers on a global level?
Right. So I think your example is perfect. And it's what we have talked internally about a lot. I think the adoption 10, 20 years out, as you asked, is the same adoption of credit cards, right? We talked about going from cash, where everybody held on to something and used that as a means of transfer, as a means of utility, to, okay, I've got this plastic card and I trust that some clearinghouse, some firm is going to properly make the transaction happen, and I'm going to end up with money back in my bank account. And I think that took a little time, right? That actually started out as a gas card, and I was able to purchase gas with it, and then you purchase more, items, and eventually became the dominant means of transaction. And I think this is really the extension of that. I think it will be a faster, cheaper, cleaner transaction than credit cards. And I think whatever that number is, and I don't know what it is it 90% of the world transacts, let's call it in some fashion of electronic form today? I think that's where crypto is going.
Yeah, because I think the uptake in different nations too that have no other options for banking. So in Africa, the uptake in adoption of new tech that can facilitate what you're talking about, transaction of money, whatever that may be in form, happens faster where they just don't have traditional banking. So they're going to jump straight on something on an electronic platform that'll be able to transact. So I
mean, with crypto, you don't need banking, and you don't necessarily need all those regulations. You need, electricity, you need an internet, access point. If you have, and I guess maybe a cell phone, right, or a smartphone. If you have those three things, you can transact soon to be almost immediately anywhere, and that's just too useful.
Yeah, because you think about how long did that take from when you first? I remember those days too, when you had the paper and it ran over, and they did that in the gas cards. Golf, I think, was the first one that did it. I remember Dad had a golf card that we used to do that. Yeah. Do you think about late 1970s until what was the full saturation? Probably so that, let's say that whole entire process took 30 years. So how long do you think this will take? 5 years? It's going to be much faster. It's going to be a consolidated, just quickening, if you will, of that introduction, uptake, saturation point, or full global usage.
Yeah, if credit cards took 30 years, cut it in half. And we're already what, 8-9 years into this, as we are. So, yeah, I think less than 10 years from now, I don't know if we'll be at the preponderance of transactions happening via crypto, but we are going to be a very, very significant percentage of transactions.
I want to stay in the traditional banking sector for a second. So interbank transfers. So let's say I want to open an account and I have physical fiat. I want to be able to move it in to, so which banks might I use, or which banks are you using? I've heard tale of Chase and US Bank Core for now to use in the transactions. And so Chase has international branches. So how does that intersect with what you're doing and to on-ramp to change that fiat over into crypto then?
In the not too distant past, you had these major banks that said, oh, crypto, no way. But now they're changing their story. Jamie Dimon, CEO of Chase said, not a chance, but if you look at all his rhetoric in the last 2 years, he's becoming an adopter, of crypto. And Chase is becoming an adopter of crypto. And so Chase is one of the ways that someone could send us, fiat. We can accept that money and then convert it, obviously, into Bitcoin or Ethereum. That's going to continue to improve. US Bank is another one that we're talking to and that we work with that is allowing transactions to happen that are in the crypto space. There are many other major banks that are happening. One of the things that's really changing, and you had mentioned sort of Wild West and AML KYC, that is changing. What you're seeing now are firms like us that have been around 40 years and have been in a regulated industry for 40 years and understand what regulation and anti-money laundering and know your customer, what those things look like and feel like. And so as players like us get involved and have the proper registrations and have the proper setups and have the proper experience, major institutions like Chase are saying, okay, these are the types of firms that we can get behind and help process. And so this onboarding and offboarding is getting more accessible and more, I don't want to say safer, but it's getting more user-friendly, more comfortable, more trust for the end user.
This is the future you're looking at right here. So if you feel like reaching out to Matt or the team up there at Zaner Digital, also Precious Metals, Zaner Precious Metals, I'll leave that link in the description box below. And I hope everybody out there, has a little bit greater insight into we're seeing all these things play out in front of us. So it's not just we're talking a specific laser niche here. This covers a wide array of all these changes in society happening to all of us, all of our countries, all of the money systems across the planet. It's all happening. So, we're just trying to connect a few dots that might be seemingly unconnected and then make it into a wider picture. Do appreciate you watching. Hope you got something out of our conversation, and I'll see you next time. Matt, any final words, any closing thoughts? I always like to, leave the person I'm talking to with the last ideas that you want to put out.
I really appreciate the time. I love talking to the audience. I love, spreading the gospel, because I truly believe, as I've been saying, that this utility is going to grow, and those that get comfortable with this utility will be much better served when they see that, oh my God, I can be transacting using crypto, and that's going to be cheaper, faster, better for me than fiat. So any chance I get to spread the gospel, I love it. Thank you for having me on.
All right. Bye for now.